Next on this HBO Max list, right? Judas and the Black Messiah was great. Eerie League and the Witch was not so great. Little Things was not that great. So what's next? It's got to be something great on the same level of Judas and the Black Messiah, right? I mean, they wouldn't put something really great and then put something terrible up. Oh, they put Tom and Jerry in, and it's a movie now. Oh, okay. In all seriousness, I watched the trailer for this movie, and when I heard about a Tom and Jerry live action movie, I'm like, that's not happening. But then randomly, a trailer popped up, and I'm like, okay. And I liked that it was 2D, but I still thought the animation looked bad because, like, live action 2D animation hybrids can actually work really well. Who Framed Roger Rabbit is one of my favorite movies ever made. It's one of the greatest films ever made. And Cool World is not good in a lot of areas, but at least it's interesting. And but this is not like those. This is just a cheap, bad family movie. And I say cheap because this animation doesn't is not terrible, but it doesn't blend well with the live action. In fact, it feels like most of the time the animation is kept so separate from the live action that it makes it easier to blend. Like they didn't try to blend it with the live action. Like they went the easy route with doing this type of film. It looks cheap. It looks bad. Um, and this. And here's the thing: is this fine for kids? I would say no, because I would find kids getting very, very bored by this film. Because what kids want to see is Tom and Jerry. When people read the title, it's Tom and Jerry, the movie, right? But Tom and Jerry aren't in this movie. I mean, they're in it, but they're not. What this movie's actually about is we have Chloe Grace Moretz and Michael Pena working at a high prestige hotel, and what goes on with that, and then Tom and Jerry kind of come in and ruin that. But most of this movie is the human characters babbling on about this hotel and just adult stuff, right? If I was a kid, I would have been bored out of my mind by this movie. It's also just way too long, okay? This movie is an hour and 41 minutes. Most family movies are like an hour and a half. Like this movie went on way too long. And it even has like a little post credit thing, which is like for this. So this is one of those movies where I don't understand the point of it because it appeases nobody. It is a family movie that will not appeal to families because it's like, oh, your kids will watch it, but then you'll just be bored. Like the adults will be bored, the kid will be bored, and then it's just like, okay, does it appeal to Tom and Jerry fans? No. I mean, there's some references and older characters that make appearances that were in the classic shorts, like obscure ones, which are cool, but like, it doesn't matter. Like, they don't do anything. I mean, Spike does, some of the major older characters like Spike and stuff, they do some stuff in the movie. But for the most part, this movie is not going to appeal to nobody. Like, there's just no reason for this movie to exist. Except Warner Brothers has an IP, Tom and Jerry, and they say, hey, we want to do more projects with them, but we have to bring them back first. So how do we do that? How do we bring them back in a movie? Let's make a movie. And then they made a movie. And here's the thing. They tried making Tom and Jerry movie once. They talked, and it was critically panned. Now, personally, I don't hate that movie. I think that movie is actually fine. I don't think it's like oh, Tom and Jerry are like great characters in that movie. I mean, it's a little weird seeing them talk, but it's like it's a fine movie if you ignore the fact that it's a Tom and Jerry movie. Like kids can enjoy that, you know what I mean? So I this is different. No one can enjoy this. I think it's bad. Um it is just overly long. It's just a bland movie. Um Again, it's one of those IP mining. We're like, hey, we want to make more Tom and Jerry stuff, which is very obvious that they want to do that because with this, they announced, hey, we're doing a preschool show with Tom and Jerry. We're doing an HBO Max series, so they're obviously wanting to do more, and this movie is just a kickstart to that type of stuff. But you know, my thought is just make another cartoon. You don't need to make a bland movie because at least with the cartoon, kids will enjoy it. I think the slapstick is very irritating in this movie because it doesn't work because it's live action. Like it just doesn't. It isn't well integrated into the film. Like there are points where I'm like, oh, that was kind of funny, but it's like the fact that I'm seeing this real background while this is happening takes me out of the fact that this is a cartoon, and then it's being interspliced with scenes about Chloe Grace Moretz and Michael Pena babbling on about a motel and a wedding and how fabulous this hotel is, and I'm like, is this what anybody wants out of this? You know, like at least with the Chipmunks one and the Smurfs one, you could say there was some bad human stuff, but it was just enough of the Smurfs and the Chipmunks that like I could see a kid watching that and enjoying it. This I can't see a kid watching and enjoying because the scenes are so boringly directed with no life or energy that like a kid could grasp onto and be like, wow, that's entertaining and have fun, right? You know, that's who this is made for, kids, right? If I didn't find it good, you know, kid would find it good, right? Um, but this is just one of those strange movies where nobody is gonna find it good, just nobody. You know, it's like I was talking about Flora and Ulysses. Like I was saying, it was fine for kids. Well, this is the opposite. This is when somebody makes a movie that is supposed to appeal to kids, but it's not fine for kids. It's just not because it's inappropriate or anything, but because it's like it's a kids movie that like a kid wouldn't find entertaining because it's boring when it shouldn't be because it's supposed to entertain kids.